So in this case, I'm pushing the pole through the welt. I like to get the welt on top so I can see where it might be bunching. You'll find that some of the welts are sewed very tight, and the aluminum collars on the pole are going to want to hang up. And again, we're not sliding our hand along that potentially splinter infested section. It's kind of a magician's wand sort of thing. There we are. Now generally the fabric will last longer if you can somewhat randomize how you fold these things, but a lot of them are going to enforce a certain pattern. So we'll basically just go ahead and fold this up. Generally also you will probably want to keep the screen, the no-seam mesh on the inside. That way if you're walking from where your tent is set up to the vehicle or where you're packing, it doesn't get snagged on bushes, branches, or trees as you're going by. So first of the bro science, air in this case is not your friend. It's great in your lungs. It's great to fly airplanes through, but when it comes to repacking your tent, you're going to want to roll as much of your air out of you as you can. Part of how we do that is we roll twice. So I'm going to roll the fly just to try and work some of the air out of it, see how it lands, make sure I don't have any lumps, bumps, or hot spots that are going to create problems for me later on. And then we're going to unroll it and roll it back to really try and get it down to a compact size. Let's look. So the first roll is rather sloppy. We're just going quick, we're tacking our straps in, that kind of thing. Second roll should come out better. And I don't know how much you can catch of that on frame, but you can see the second roll is much tighter. The other pro tip. Generally, the tents are sized based on their largest fixed dimension, which is the poles. And so, in a world where you're curious about whether or not you can get it back in the bag, if you use the poles as a roll guide, you should be pretty close to perfect. Next steps here, of course, we'll do the reverse of what we did before. I'm going to pull, I would normally pull all the pegs, but the 2 at the ends, let's say the 4 at the ends, 2 at this end, 2 at this end, and then you can collapse the whole thing together. If you set your pegs down in a great place, that seems like a great place. I'll come back and get them later. Those are the pegs you'll lose. Something else I should say is you'll notice that I'm waggling the pole, giving it a flop. That lets the pole move more freely in the tent because it's passing through the air rather than pushing on the fabric. And it keeps the ends of the poles, from filling up with the dirt and debris sliding across the earth, picking up that stuff that's going to block you later. In the event you have helpers that are really overzealous and you want to get out of the way with the poles as quickly as you can, there's nothing that says you can't break them down 2 by 2 and then do them all at once. So we just did another, what I would say is Bro Science pro tip, particularly if you're borrowing a tent like I have with this one. Most doors have a 2-way zipper, so it zips and it zips. In my opinion, the most convenient place to have those 2 zippers is not at the top, hiding under a rain welt, or at the bottom, hiding under a rain welt, but zipped together in the middle. What I like about that is if you need to let the dog out, you don't have to reach way up here in the middle of the night and go forever, waking everybody in the tent to be able to let the dog out. Or if you're going to slide out for that necessary trip in the wee hours in the morning, You can kind of crawl out on your hands and knees because, let's face it, you're not going to want to walk around very much and get all woke up. The other advantage to having them both in the middle, they're super easy to find. And in that long zip opening the door, all the mosquitoes that are hiding up in the top of your fly have been disturbed and now flown into your tent. So leaving the top portion pulled down as much as you can and working mostly from the bottom saves the day and a good night's sleep. Most tents have symmetrical design, so you'll see that the two gray hooks are the same distance, symmetrical, from the ends. So that gives you a nice fold-in point. You don't have to pay attention to how the tent came out of the bag. It's all a matter of how it goes back in the bag. You could also fold this tent if the wind is working against you. Rather than having these big flaps, you could fold it on its lengthwise axis. That way one person can reach from side to side. Usually your reach is enough to reach across a 6 foot wide tent. Then you could fold it that way and work all lengthwise with the wind blowing at your back, and the wind will help you fold the tent. Here we don't have that impediment, so we'll do it the harder way. So you can see what we did there. We used the pole reaching in to try and help us fold, rather than having to try and stick an arm in there just to save a little bit of effort. So now let's take a little walk. You can see here that we've got the tent rolled down. It's very likely going to fit in the bag, and we're measuring to see how that's going to work out by laying the bag at the end. Questions that you're going to ask yourself when you go tenting: did I remember the pegs? So I usually put those at the outside of the roll in case you want to check. The fly, did I forget to pack the fly? Is the tent wet inside? Flies all the way at the end, so that you can try and check that. And the poles are evenly spaced. That way when you roll a tent, you don't end up with hot spots or pressure points when you're loading it in and out of the car. Rubbing of the tent next to that one piece of the tent that's all the way at the roof is right on the end of that one pole that isn't fully covered in the pole bag, because the whole thing got inverted and twisted and flipped in the car. And then it vibrates for 5 or 6 hours when you're driving to that perfect campsite. And now you've got a hole in your roof. Well, this way, the poles are isolated from that vibration. They're not touching each other. They're next to the floor material. It's doubled up. And there's really nothing that can roll over and be exposed and wear through. So let's see how this looks when it rolls down. See if we can get you guys back in position there. Perfect. Let's roll this hot dog. And there we have it, back in the bag. You'll also notice that there's lots of space around the outside, and also here at the end if you want to add things. Bro science, pro tip, you might want to add an extension cord. There's all kinds of room in this bag now for a 50-foot extension cord. That way if you're staying at a site that has electricity, you can charge up your iPhone, your cell pads, whatever, your Who's a What's It, gives you gadgets. I only charge my GPS and my infrared water filter. Well, having that extra cord is really going to help out. And you don't have to worry about losing it. Now, unless you pull it out to put up your Christmas lights, then you're on your own. Other opportunities, you might want to add some little treats in there, particularly if you're traveling. This is an 8-person tent already, so you're traveling with kids. You don't have to worry so much about granola bars going out of their expiration date, provided they have a Mylar package. So you might want to drop some treats into the tent bag. That way at the end of the tent setup, you're already set up for snacks and rewards for helping out, putting up the tent. Not that you'll need any help, but by directing them to put the pegs in and that sort of thing, you can set this up by yourself, but it's still fun to put those kinds of things in there. So you can do treats, you can do electronics, anything that you think you might need more of, tent pegs, cordage, clothesline, all kinds of stuff. Now I know this is a long video, but we really wanted to highlight how, A, this is a particularly good tent for your money. I think they paid about 150 bucks at Canadian Tire. Shout out Canadian Tire. We also want to give a quick shout out to our Revolution Reality, who follows us on Instagram. Mark and Selena, thanks guys for the loan of the tent. And we're super excited to have had the opportunity to put it up and take it down. Again, I apologize for the length of the video, but my hope is that this is really going to improve your overall experience. Any of the bro science that we shared with you today is going to work with any tent you might have. And so, from all of us to all of you, stay sharp. Bye now.